Well, ladies and gentlemen, the longest version of Don't Ease Me In human history.
I was just gonna say that usual little knock it out and take a break ditty was really stretched out, and I'm sure there are dead statisticians scrambling now to ascertain that, but that sure wouldn't fit on one side of a Scorpio record single, I'll tell you that.
So true. Huh. Hey, friends, it's Dead Air with Lambert and Gans. I'm Gans, he's Lambert. And we're going to bring a guest in and talk about the music and stuff in a few minutes. But first, we're going to tell you that if you're watching this on youtube.com/nugsnet, you're getting a free sample of the Dead and Company live stream. They're going to give you the first song. After we get done blabbing, they're going to give you the first song of the set. And if you like it, they're hoping that you will buy the stream. And you do that by going to livedead.co. And when you do that, by the way, you get a license to view the stream that lasts for 48 hours from the moment you start viewing. So you can go back and watch the first set if you missed it. And then you can watch the whole thing multiple times between now and 48 hours from the time you click that thing. There's also packages for the whole tour, which again, if you order the whole tour, you can go back and watch all the shows that you missed. That's why Nugs has brought Gary and me in here to talk about this, to give you something more interesting than a please stay tuned card, but also to talk about how great the live feed is, how great the music is, how great the video is, how great the audio feed is, and how nice it is that there's an audio-only package you can get from Nugsnet as well. And you can download every show like the morning after it happens.
I've heard, in fact, people have been known to get those shows even before they wake the next day. If the intrepid Nugs.net crew gets it turned around fast enough, it becomes available very quickly. So, as you said, they may have it on their drive to the next gig, which is always a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, let's bring our guest in so we can talk about the set we just heard.
You bet. Well, an old friend of both of us, an old friend of a lot of people in the Grateful Dead world, because he's been instrumental in bringing you so much great music since I think about 1999, when he became the Grateful Dead's official archivist. And then he moved on when the Grateful Dead signed up with Rhino to put out all their archival stuff. He went with them and has been bringing us such an unending flow of great music, including the Dave's Picks series, amazing box sets, and more. So we're very happy to introduce our friend, Grateful Dead archivist and legacy manager, David Lemieux.
Hey,
Hello.
guys, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Great, man.
I'm good. This is a thrill. Gary, we were doing our thing with the thing on the Shakedown stream, and David, I miss you, man. I miss you. I miss both of you guys.
Well, you went and moved up to that beautiful place in BC, so we don't see you in person very often anymore. But I wanted to ask you about where you live, because we who follow you on Twitter are treated to beautiful views. You post a daybreak on the land photo many, many days, and it makes me want to go visit you where you live. Where are you?
The very southern tip of Vancouver Island, which is not where Vancouver is. A lot of people think Vancouver, the city. Vancouver's on the mainland. It takes about, with driving and ferries, about 4 hours to get there. So I'm on the southern tip of Vancouver Island in the beautiful city of Victoria. I think we're more south than Seattle even. So we're kind of in the Pacific Ocean on the West Coast. And it certainly is beautiful. And I go out for a walk in the morning, cup of coffee. And the pictures you're talking about, David, are just, I get inspired by what I see. It's a great place to be. And I work from home, as many of us have been doing for a while now. So it's good seeing.
Nice.
Yes,
I'm glad you post those photos.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
You'll sometimes see a picture of David with a ginormous salmon that he's caught. And in addition to such features as the avocado of the day and other wonderful David Lemieux preoccupations. And David lives in Canada because David is one of Canada's many gifts to the lower 48. And we're so glad he came into our world. David, why don't you, first let's run down the set and then we'll get a little more of your story. But David G, I have to differentiate my Davids. David, you have the set list?
I do. They open with Hell in a Bucket, and all the people that have been bitching about tempo, I think they have to be quiet. It was a much, much hotter tempo this time around. Alabama Getaway, Friend of the Devil, a nice swing in Friend of the Devil from these guys. Road Jimmy, New Speedway Boogie, a delightful Dear Prudence, which I don't think has been heard on Deadco Tour in the last couple of years, and the aforementioned extended album version of Don't Ease Me In.
That's right.
I saw a Don't Ease Me In once that something happened at the end of the solo, and they had to do the solo again. And so that went from like 3.5 minutes to like 4 minutes. What we just heard, I think, was double that. They really were having fun with that one.
Yeah. They kept, that tune is usually pretty punchy, like, maybe a 1 or 2 chorus solo by Jeff, 1 or 2 chorus solo by John. They get back to the final refrain, but this time they brought the groove down. They got subtle with it. They brought it up again. They were having fun messing around with it. And, it's kind of the same kind of, upbeat shuffly thing as a truckin' or something. So it lends itself to that. There's no reason you can't stretch out Don't Ease Me In. It's just that it never occurred to anyone before. So David Lemieux, have you caught any other shows on this tour, or can you give us your impression?
Several webcasts. Being on the West Coast, as you guys know, or as David knows, it's timing things properly is tough sometimes. But I've seen quite a few sets. I have not seen any shows. The border with the pandemic is still largely closed. You can fly down, but I'm not really into flying right now. So no, I haven't. I'm anxious to get to a show because they've been playing really well. The ones I've seen, I don't know, probably at least half of a show or all of a show of probably 5 or 6 of them so far. And they're playing really well. And everybody I know who's been going to shows, I know a lot of people there tonight, have just been saying that this tour, I don't know if it's, there's so much time off where they've rehearsed or whatever, but they're playing really well. Every night's like a magical kind of experience.
I feel the same way. And I'm especially excited about John Mayer kind of having taken things to a yet another level with his playing and he's gradually absorbing this stuff and it's getting into his DNA like it has been in those other guys' DNA for all these years. And he's really starting to sort of stand up and show us what he can do with a lot of this music. And of course, Jeff Chimenti is there to volley with him in the most amazing collaboration.
Yep, I heard a lot of really good Jeff stuff on the slower songs today, Friend of the Devil, which I did like the tempo tonight. It was a nice peppy one. But Road Jimmy in particular stood out for me, the second half of the song, which with the Grateful Dead, the shows, Road Jimmy, that second half of it was really special sometimes. And tonight was one of those nights where I thought Jeff was doing some great stuff. But as you were saying about John, what he was doing under the closing vocal chorus was really beautiful. Like he's really getting inside the music, or it's getting inside him, I guess.
Yeah, I felt that way about Lost Sailor too. Is another one. There's like particular moments where he's differentiating himself from what Jerry did on those songs, and I like the textures that he's bringing into it as well. And it's like this, it's honoring what has gone before and also taking it forward, which is exactly the mission of this band as I understand it.
Yeah. It's interesting because I saw the Dead here there at Pine Knob twice in 91. Magnificent shows, and I was just thinking about the set list, and none of the songs they played in that first set tonight did they play at those 2 shows I saw in 91, right after the Giant Stadium shows. So I'm hoping I really dig that kind of stuff when the Dead and Company, when Further, whoever goes back to a place and plays songs that were really special in the same venue. I always really like that. So I'm kind of hoping we'll see some of that. And those were great shows. So a lot of good music to choose from.
Well,
go ahead.
Of course.
Go ahead, Gary.
Of course, the most telling example of that on this tour so far was Bethel Woods, where they, some said redeemed, some said exercised the Grateful Dead's Woodstock set by playing that set in sequence to start the second set in Bethel. And aside from the novelty, it was an amazing set of music. They didn't just do it as kind of a prank. They did it really beautifully and showed that they could do it without everything going to hell in a proverbial bucket.
Yeah. No, that was special. That was I talked with Matt about that a couple of days beforehand, and he was really excited about the possibility of them doing that. And like you say, exercising what had gone down 52 years earlier.
I just did an interview with a gentleman named Jonathan Taplin, who has published a memoir called The Magic Years. He was the road manager for the band and went on, he was like on the Dylan band tour in England when they were hollering out Traitor and stuff and all. And he was the road manager for the band at Woodstock. And his description of that and how they were flown in on a helicopter and stuff was very cool. I just want to drop in a mention of this book, The Magic Years by Jonathan Taplin, because he was in a lot of important places. He also talks about Watkins Glen and stuff like that. So he wasn't with the Dead, but his path crossed with the Dead a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And hearing new perspectives on old stories is always fun.
Yeah, like and that. we might as well add that Jonathan Taplin's going to join us on Tales from the Golden Road this Sunday, which is this other job that David and I have on SiriusXM Radio. SiriusXM now has a connection with Nugs.net, so the synergies are just going nuts, and we couldn't be more happy about it. But David, let's get back to you. And you've had this dream job since the late 1990s, and there are always new Deadheads who haven't heard these stories. So let's talk a little bit about how you came into this world and how you landed this fantastic job, which you have done such honor, might I add.
Well, thanks, Barry. I'll say, first of all, that I am very aware, I'm very grateful of what I do. I enjoy every day. It's interesting. Earlier today, I did a French language interview for CBC in Canada. And it was a 20-minute interview. So I had to, what I'm about to tell you, I had to do it in French today. So it really had me thinking, because my French is good, not perfect. So it really had me deep diving. And while I was speaking the story in French, again, the gratitude came over me of realizing, because the question was, what does a normal day, an average day look like for you? And there's never an average day, especially right now. We're incredibly busy, always in August and September. We get very busy with the 2022 plans, and we've actually got such a busy 2022. A couple of great projects we had planned for next year have already been bumped to 2023. So I'm very grateful. Every day is different. So sorry, Gary, the question was, how did I get involved?
How'd you get here?
Yeah.
How did I get here? So 22 years ago, I was living in Victoria. I'd gone to grad school in England in 97, 98 for a master's degree in film archiving. And I kind of studied film archiving, which was the physical preservation of film and fixing old films and preserving them, the physical side, but also cataloging them, copying them, which is very important, and then making them accessible, which is whether it was early days of a website or making DVDs or things like that from old archival films. And part of that master's program was an internship, which I did here in Victoria, BC. Came out here, did a kind of a 4-month internship. And while I was here, the person who was in charge of the British Columbia Archives film and video collection and audio, he was retired. So they offered me the job. So I took it. And then while I was doing that, I wrote Dick Latvala through Susanna Millman. I wanted to buy a photo from Susanna Millman. And she says, "Oh, you're an archivist. You got to talk to my husband, Dennis McNally." I was like, "Oh my!" I had no idea that Susanna was. So Susanna said, "Dennis says you should talk to Dick." So they gave me Dick's email address, and I wrote him an email, and I asked if I could see the Grateful Dead's archive, and Dick graciously said yes. And I spent a few hours with John Cutler, and you guys can imagine John Cutler's first impression of this guy in the vault that Dick has let in, showing him all these tapes, this 28-year-old kid straight out of college. And John was not impressed. But then John and I hit it off because we were talking about old video equipment. And then a month later, I wrote John and Dick a letter, an actual printed out letter. And I said, "Hey, guys, thanks for the time you spent with me." And the letter I wrote to John, I wrote, "P.S. If you need somebody to catalog the video collection." I knew that Dick was primarily involved in the audio. That was his focus. He didn't have much interest in the video or film. And a week later, this was end of 1998, John called me and asked me if I was serious. I said, yeah. So I came down in February 99, did a 3-month contract cataloging the film and video. And then the contract was up, and then through June and July and August, they kept bringing me down to do other projects, working for Phil on the recordings. And in August of 99, that's when Dick got sick and very quickly passed away. And they asked me to stick around, and I did. I called the BC Archives up here, and I said I'm not going to come back. And I got a place in San Anselmo. And the reason I got a place in San Anselmo is because of Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues. I remember Phil, because I was driving by a sign, San Anselmo, just past Ross and San Rafael, and Phil used to sing, "I'm going back to San Anselmo. I do believe I've had enough." I said, that's where I want to live. So I rented this little house there and stayed a while. It was good. And Gary, I met you around that time. And David, I worked closely with you at that time, right when I got there around August. You and Blair and Steve were doing the So Many Roads box. And Gary was always around doing the Almanac and all sorts of other things. And, it became an all-encompassing job where, as you guys know, there's so many different aspects of it, whether it's the music or the merch or, in the early days, I was getting sandwiches for everybody and cleaning the bathrooms and all that stuff. It's what you do, and taking out the garbage.
That's what they made.
Yes, exactly. And Dick had a couple cats out back, so you kind of feed the cats and you do whatever's needed to be done. So did that, and then just kept working harder and doing more things. And then 2006, it all went to LA to Rhino, and I came up to Canada, but I continued doing a lot of the same things. So still doing it 20.
I remember the first time I met you, you were sitting at a Moviola looking at October 1974 footage, and you called me over and showed me a little stretch and said, "Do you think you can figure out what song they were playing?" And I can't remember. I think it might have been China Cat Sunflower. And I was just like looking at Jerry's hands or something like that. But it was a fun way to be introduced to you.
Totally. We were winding through film. It was a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I love the serendipity of you coming to that job from one discipline, from being a film archivist, but also being a deadhead, and and just the match being so perfect. David, one thing I always like to talk to you about, and this occurred when we were doing Shakedown Stream, and the couch, by the way, is still here. Shakedown Stream fans, people would ask us. We showed a lot of choice Grateful Dead video from late '80s into the '90s, because that was the best available stuff. And we would always get, "Why do you guys show more '70s or early '80s?" And we just say the quality of the video just wasn't there. And in many cases, video wasn't happening. The video was not shot of these shows. The only '70s stuff we were able to show was things like the Hamburg video cast from Europe '72, or the Grateful Dead movie, or Sunshine Daydream, which was filmed as a film. But now we have this incredible abundance of stuff, and yet we couldn't have imagined back then that we'd be getting video like Nugsnet delivers on a nightly basis. The ability of the cameras to pick up far more high definition images. The audio mix is so much better. So I'm a little envious of the people of today who get this and wish that we could go back, in the proverbial time machine and capture some of that '70s Dead video. But it's really great to have it now, isn't it?
It really is. It reminds me, I remember June 21st, 1989, the summer solstice show at Shoreline. And I was up in Ottawa, Canada. I was 18 years old, and I was about to go on tour. I started the tour in Foxborough on July 2nd through Alpine and Cal Expo that summer. But I remember watching that. I didn't have a satellite dish. You had to have a satellite dish back then. And my brother had a satellite dish, and I went to his house, and I watched it. And I remember thinking, that was one of the biggest Grateful Dead news items in the Dead world and technologically of that entire era. And that was one show. And then we all made VHS tapes of it, and it became a cornerstone of our video collections of trading these live shows. And it was I mean, we used to think if they did this every show of every tour, I'd gladly chip in $20, put in $20 to buy that thing if I couldn't make it to the show. And now we get to do this. And I was listening to your pre-show talking about the Healy's plan to have a truck with the banks of the Kaba cassette burn deck. I remember hearing that even like 90, 91, hearing that as a possibility, 89, and thinking I would gladly line up for that thing. And then, as you said, David Rafflin and Mike McGinn did that with Rat Dog. But we're really lucky to have this. Like to know that tomorrow we can listen to tonight's show. And then the nice thing I like is that I'm not on the tour right now, but I'll hear about an extra special show. And that's the one that I make sure that I download next, because, you know, it's the kind of thing where it used to be you'd have to wait for the tapes to arrive, and then they'd often sound pretty bad. This stuff sounds magnificent, and you get it 12 hours later, or you watch it live, which is, I still can't believe we're doing this, watching a concert live in such good quality. It's pretty magical.
It's pretty wonderful. May I change the subject briefly?
Yes.
I want to talk about your curation of the Grateful Dead archive and how it's being released in boxed sets, because I really like this thing you've done of these kind of regional, like the Pacific Northwest box set is just a huge favorite of mine. And you picked an area and an era and got us 6 complete shows from that, which makes sense together. And now you're doing that with this St. Louis thing. 71, 72, and 73. Now, being a geezer deadhead of my age, that's definitely my favorite period. So, of course, I'm inclined to like it. But I just wanted to appreciate and ask you a little bit about the philosophy of doing these things. It's sort of a vertical tasting of an area instead of a time frame, which I think is a clever way to go at this, to mix things up nicely.
Well, thank you. You know, when we started doing the box sets, which is about 15 years ago, 16 years ago, the first one was the Fillmore West 69, one venue, a weekend of shows. And then the next couple after that, next 3, I guess, were Winterland November 73, Winterland June of 77, and the Warlocks box. So again, they were a weekend of shows, a couple of shows in the same venue. And that's generally what we focused on for a little while. And then we started getting... certainly not more ambitious. I thought those were all very ambitious, but we started thinking outside the box. We started doing things like the spring tour of 1990 boxes. And then it was the Pacific Northwest where we really decided to do something that was a geographical specificity of the Pacific Northwest, but bridged over a couple of years. And as you said, David, it has to make sense. And with the St. Louis, we've got the St. Louis box. You can head over to dead.net and check out this. I think it's 20 CDs. It's a 20 CDs. It's a 7-show box set spanning 22 months in the Grateful Dead's history. Very important months that cover the Skull and Roses era, when that album came out, Europe 72, and Wake of the Flood. And they're all from St. Louis. So St. Louis was what held it together. And we'd always had our eye on one show in particular in there, which is 10/18/72. And that's the one with the big Playing in the Band, Dark Star, Morning Dew, back into Playing in the Band. But the other shows in that run, too, the October 17th and 19th, were also really good. So we kind of, had intentionally not put out 10/18, which probably would have come out quite some time ago, with the hopes that we do that box, the box set of the 72 shows. And then we started thinking, let's go a little bigger and maybe do St. Louis also 1973, when they moved over to the Kiel, a bigger arena. And so we kind of had our eyes on a 5-show box set then. And then when the tapes, as a lot of the viewers might know, or some might not, a few years ago, about 4 years ago, a lot of Grateful Dead tapes came back to the Grateful Dead's vault. And these were very important tapes. Cornell, the June of 1976 shows of the Beacon in Boston, a lot of the 1978 material and things like that. But in addition to all those kind of famous shows that came back, there were some bits and pieces from the early 70s, from 1971.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that completed shows that we had maybe 1 reel of or 2 reels, but not complete.
Oh, fantastic.
So 12-10, the second show from the 1971 run. They did 2 shows, 12-9, 12:10. We always had the full collection from 10:9 the first night, but we'd always been missing one of the sets from 12:10, which was one of the tapes that came back. So now all of a sudden, that's a phenomenal show. That's the show that we've chosen to come out on its own out of the box set. We always do something out of the box set, either a compilation of what's in the box or not the best show, but maybe the most representative show, the most accessible, I don't know, the one that's right for now.
Is that the one, I'm sorry, where Bobby introduces a big long jam by saying this is for fans of the key of E?
Yes. It's so that
okay,
so we decided once we got the complete set of the December shows as well from 71, we said, and I mentioned a bit ago that August and September are very busy for us. And that's because we're planning out the next year of stuff. And it's a couple of months ago when a year ago, but even earlier than that, about 14 months ago, when we started talking about box sets for 2021, I basically, at that point, I asked Rhino, what do you want? Do you want 6 CDs, 9? Do you want 20? How big do you want this thing to be? Because I've always got a lot of ideas. And I've got some that are 6 CD box sets and some that are, and they said, we think we want to do a 20, something in the range of 20. I said, perfect. I've got a great 20. So I'd had this one on my front burner, frankly, for a bigger size box set. For us, it's almost a smaller one with some of the bigger ones we've done. But it had 7 shows that I thought really complemented each other and tell the story of 22 months in the Grateful Dead's history. That again, we've got Skull and Roses era, Europe 72, and then we've got Wake of the Flood and bordering on the Mars Hotel stuff. And we got some Pigpen in there, a lot of Keith and Donna. It's some good stuff.
Nice.
Boy, looking forward to it. Hey, we're told the band is making its way in its own charmingly gradual fashion toward the stage. So we're going to take some more time to talk to David Lemieux while that's going on. This is Dead Air with Lambert and Gans, and is being brought to you through nugs.net, who encourage you, if you're watching the free preview, to check out some complete shows. If this show interests you, or if you're looking down the road at others, you can get the whole show in HD or 4K. And once you start watching it, you have 48 hours to watch it as many times as you'd like. And not that Deadheads are obsessive about detail or anything, but you might just want to do that. Look at the finer moments of the show.
Let me add a serving suggestion to that. If you do this, you buy the thing, you can watch it tonight, and then tomorrow you can invite a bunch of friends over and watch it again and dance in your living room. That's a serving suggestion.
And then watch tomorrow night's show live.
That's right. And then try to get rid of your friends. But anyway, David, another great thing, of course, we had our friend Mark Pincus on last week, and the wonderful fortune of the relationship between the Grateful Dead and Rhino is that in an era where everyone is saying, physical music is dead and everyone's going to be downloading or streaming from now on, Rhino has been a company so deeply committed to the curatorial art of music and putting out beautifully designed and packaged box sets with liner notes and all that stuff. Hey, we're told the band is all on stage. That doesn't mean the house lights are down, but it could be any second. So we're going to start winding. Yeah, we could talk to you for days on end, David. As we learned during Shakedown Stream, we are both gifted with gab, and
yes,
but we've really enjoyed having you here as always.
Thank you.
It's such a pleasure to talk music and all that with you. So just stick around till the house lights go down. We sometimes say goodnight to our guests, but this conversation is going so well that
that's right.
Let's just stick with it.
I would quickly want to mention also that Gary and he mentioned it once earlier, but I'll remind you that we co-host a show on Sirius XM's Grateful Dead channel called Tales from the Golden Road. And it's on Sunday afternoons from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time on Sirius XM 23, the Grateful Dead channel. And it's a call-in show. And we love to hear from people like you who've been out there going to shows or watching the shows. Oh, here comes David's new cat. I was hoping you would bring the cat. Ziggy, right?
This is Ziggy, yeah. Ziggy's a good guy. I'll put him like that. He likes to look back.
Hi, Ziggy.
Hey, buddy.
Well, this is a good way to kill time till the house lights are down.
First half with me.
Oh, very
Yeah,
good.
he enjoyed the first
Does Ziggy have a favorite era or?
so far, you know what? He's actually, I put on, we were listening to some 1972, a pretty deep dark star from Philadelphia Spectrum from 9/21/72. And it got pretty wild in there, and he did not leave the room. So that was good. He's accustomed to some noises, blenders, vacuums, and the Grateful Dead playing 1972 Dark Stars.
That's very interesting
Hey.
because we've heard of that music characterized as sounding like cats being tormented. So I'm glad to know that your cat is hipper than that.
Yeah,
But a good
pretty cool.
early 70s dark star always gets me purring too. So anyway, the band is on stage, but the house lights are imminent.
Any predictions for the beginning of set 2?
I don't even remember what they've played recently, but I'm hoping for Playing in the Band. I'm a huge Playing in the Band fans, and it gives them the space to go into lots of other cool things.
That's an interesting. Lights are going down.
Lights.
We got to stop talking.
It's time, David.
Thank you for being with us,
so
David
much.
Lemieux. Enjoy.
Thanks,
Enjoy
everyone.
set 2.
Bye.
Says it costs a lot to win, and even more to lose. You and me bound to spend some time wondering what to choose. Goes to show you don't ever know what each card you play and play it slow. Wait until that deal comes around. Don't you let that deal go down. I've been gambling here about for 10 good solid years. If I told you all that went down, it would burn out both of your ears. down. Wait until that deal come round. Don't you let that deal come round. Wait till that deal come round. Don't you let that deal come round. Wait till that deal. Comes a time when the blind